Hey everybody, Damaso here, and today I'm going to go over a few different skateboards to help you make an informed decision when you finally decide to get back into it. A midlife crisis is an inevitability, and it's barreling down on you like a runaway freight train. And you can't afford a vet, you can't afford a Harley, so you go for the next best thing, a skateboard. Walking into a skate shop, especially if you haven't been in one in a while or never been in one, can be a little intimidating. It shouldn't be, but it can be, and you probably will feel a little self-conscious because you have no idea what's going on. There's all sorts of different skateboards and wheels and bearings and trucks and clothes, and weird music is playing that you don't understand. Basically, you're older and you feel out of place. And that's normal. But on the plus side, you're gonna find that the skate community is very inviting. So you wanna head down to your local skate shop. I prefer Powder and Sun. The staff there is great. They're very knowledgeable, very helpful, very patient, and they'll sit there and walk you through the whole process as to what it is that you need in order to get you on a skateboard. And it's good to go in with some idea of what it is that you're looking for when you pick out a skateboard, because it's not only gonna make their job easier, but it's gonna make it easier for them to put you in the right skateboard. The first couple of options you have are Longboard and Cruiser. And the purpose of the Longboard and Cruiser is to cover as much ground as you can with the least amount of pushes. And that's a whole different type of skateboarding all on its own. The only thing with the Longboard that I don't like is that it's a really big, cumbersome skateboard. Now I have one and I enjoy it, but I primarily use that one to skate around the block, around my neighborhood, go check the mail. And it's really not something that I use if I'm gonna go to the supermarket or to the local bar. The reason is because it's so big and weird, and it's just like when you walk into a place with a longboard, especially one as big as that, it's just a really cumbersome, weird, uncomfortable, huge plank that you're carrying around, and it's kind of silly. So then why get a longboard? What's the advantage? Well, the advantage is that if you've never skateboarded before at all, and you step onto a longboard, you're gonna have a lot more success finding your balance. Okay, we all have an internal gyroscope. And with time, your balance and your anticipatory thinking and all that stuff gets better when you're on a skateboard, but it does inspire a lot of confidence. So why are they so stable? Well, the reason why they're so stable is because they have a wider wheelbase. They also have huge soft wheels. When we talk about skateboard wheels, we gotta take into account two very important factors. One, the hardness, and two, the size. Now the size of the wheels is measured in millimeters, say 52 millimeter all the way up to 100 millimeter. Now when we talk about the softness and the hardness, that's a scale that's measured on what's called a durometer. And the higher the number, the harder the wheel. The lower the number, the softer the wheel. So what does that matter? Well, if you have a soft, big wheel, which is typically the wheel you find on a longboard, that wheel is going to absorb a lot of the impact on the terrain, on whatever terrain you're skating on. So like in this video here, see that patch of asphalt is really rough. And the longboard, well, it just glides right over it, no problem. Also, it's a grippier wheel, so you're able to stick to the ground a lot better. And that also, of course, adds to a lot of the comfort of your ride. So it feels like you're almost riding on a Cadillac. The next option that you have is what's called a Cruiser. Now, out of the two, I prefer the Cruiser. Why? Because it's more portable. So you still have the same comfort in ride that you have with a longboard, because it has big soft wheels and a wide wheelbase and a lot of stability, but it's smaller, so you can actually put that onto a skate backpack or something like that, and it's out of the way. So that's the one I actually take to the bar or to the supermarket, because it's just a fun ride, cover a lot of ground with the least amount of pushes. Truth be told, Cruisers are fun. The next skateboard that you can jump onto is one like this. So this one right here is a Steve Caballero Ban This Powell Peralta reissue. That was a mouthful. But that's a skateboard that has similar dimensions to a Cruiser, but it's not a Cruiser. This skateboard right here, I'm using it for a different purpose, but you can use this one for bowl skating and for vert skating. It's bigger, it's wider. The wheels you put on this one are typically a little bit harder, but a little bit bigger. And that is if you're gonna ride like a half pipe or a transition or a bowl or something like that. So what I did was find some wheels that were a little higher on the durometer, but still big enough to give me a very comparable ride and feel to a Cruiser. So I still cover a lot of ground with not a lot of pushes. The board acts like a Cruiser, but if I happen to come across some obstacles, like say a tasty, freshly painted red curb, I can still get down and do some street skating. can do all those basic street skating tricks and still have the comfortability and the portability and all the benefits of a cruiser, but it's tied into more of a street skating centric setup. So one thing to keep in mind if you go with this setup is that it is going to be a heavier skateboard still. Not as heavy as the cruiser, but it'll still be a bit on the heavier side. If you have stronger legs, this is going to work for you. But if you're a smaller in stature, have smaller feet, this setup may not work for you. So if you don't want a cruiser and you want this kind of a setup, but this particular setup is a little too big for you, what you can do is get yourself a regular street deck and just outfit it like a cruiser. What I would suggest doing is getting the corresponding trucks, some riser pads, so you can have more clearance when you put in that bigger, softer wheel. So it'll have the same functionality of a cruiser, but you have the option to just swap out the wheels and have yourself a street deck. So when we get into street skating, that's where it gets a little bit more nuanced. So that's why I suggest going to a skate shop, because you want to talk to them there, you want to look at all the skateboards, you want to pick out a deck, you want to stand on it, make sure it feels okay. And that's also a very important thing, is that there's a lot of feel involved. You may not have that sixth sense in the beginning, but as you progress and as you get better and as you go through a few decks, you're going to realize that there's a certain feel to a skateboard that is just right, which is why it's so important to go to a skate shop and pick one up. It's also really important to go to a skate shop and pick up your skateboard, because they're made out of wood. It's an organic material. So when you pick a skateboard, you gotta look at it and make sure it's not warped, make sure it's not delaminating. Like, there's a lot of things you gotta look at when you pick out a skateboard. So when you order it online, you don't know what you're gonna get. I can't give you any specific recommendations on a street deck because there are a lot of different factors that come into play, such as your dimensions. How tall are you? How short are you? How fat are you? How big are your feet? So there's a perfect skateboard out there for you, but you have to go down to a skate shop and find it. But they do range from 7.75, I'm talking about width, 7.75 inches all the way up to like 8.5, I think is the threshold that you can push for an acceptable street deck. But again, for me, you know, an 8.5 is a perfect size because I'm a bigger guy, so I ride a bigger board. And I compensate for some of the weight by the components that I have. So the trucks that I have are independent. I've been riding Indies ever since I was a little kid. I'm just loyal to that brand. The ones that I have are Stage 11, hollow. They're the lightest trucks that I can afford. So the logic behind one of those boards being specifically a street skating skateboard is that it's a smaller skateboard, which means that the components are smaller. So if the components are smaller, they're also lighter. So if the overall board is lighter, then you're gonna be able to get it up in the air a lot quicker and a lot faster. It's gonna be able to spin more, it's gonna be able to flip more, you're gonna be able to flip into tricks, flip out of tricks. And so, which is why the wheels on a street skateboard are typically smaller and harder. So if we go back to that really rough asphalt, you'll see that on a street skateboard, yeah, you can get through it, but it ain't gonna be easy. Those particular wheels, they're so small and hard and dense that imagine them being like little bars of soap. So when you get onto a ledge or a rail, you can lock in and it'll make it easier for you to slide and glide a lot quicker. And that's really what you need. And also you need a smaller wheel so that if you want to flip out of a trick, it's not going to be something that's going to be in the way. So they're not really made to travel long distances. Basically, the purpose of that skateboard is get to a spot, go as fast as you can, get onto the ledge, flip in, flip out, do all the different variation of tricks that you want to do, and then you go. So if that's the type of skateboarding you're interested in getting into, then that's the option for you. So guys, thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. I have some big plans for this channel, so please like, sub, share, and all that good stuff. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time.